What's up, guys? Welcome to another Fantasy Fellowship fandom discussion where we'll be discussing the massive series that is Game of Thrones, how initially epic it was, and how polarized it will be. We'll be discussing the TV show, current release books from the main series, the future of the book series, and how it will differ from the show, as well as spin-off TV shows such as House of the Dragon and the Jon Snow series, as well as other books written within the series. My name is Damian, and I'm from the Fantasy Fellowship Innovation team. And I'm fortunate enough to be joined by fellow innovation team member Pam, as well as Tom, Nessa, and last but certainly not least, the wonderful founder of the Fantasy Fellowship, Sarah. So how we're going to kick things off tonight is we're going to talk about how each of us discovered the series. So Tom, if we start with you, tell me a little bit about how you discovered the series.
So I've got a little bit of a story. I was initially back when the show started, I think in 2010. It was like halfway through the first season, and I was sitting in my math class, and one of my mates was on his iPod watching a show just during the middle of class, and I had a look over his shoulder, and I was having a look at what he was watching, and he goes, "Oh, mate, it's Game of Thrones. It's awesome. You should watch it." But the scene he was watching was a certain scene in season 1 with Daenerys and Khal Drogo, and I kind of got the wrong idea of what the show was about. I kind of thought it was like filthy, dirty, smart. So every single week when a new episode came out, he said, "Mate, watch it with me, watch it with me." And I was like, "Nah, mate, not down for that."
Yeah.
And it just persisted for weeks and weeks until the season ended. And then I was on like school holidays, and I just got bored. So I said, whatever, I'll give it a watch since he's always nagging. And then after that, I was just hooked. Like, I realized it wasn't the filthy, dirty smut that I thought it was. Well, there's more to it than that. And yeah, I've just been like hooked ever since. Like, I must have seen the first episode like 25 times because I'm always like introducing new friends to the show, and I'll like watch the first ep with them, and then they'll go off and watch it the whole season, the whole series on their own. And then a few years later, I started reading the books. And then a few years after that, I read the books again. And then that kind of like is what got me into reading. So I didn't really read before that. But now, yeah, I'm just like hooked on fantasy. So that's all because of Game of Thrones.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's cool because, a lot of people, similar to yourself, did discover the books through the show, didn't they?
Yeah.
Definitely. Because how I discovered the books initially, I hope none of my like school friends or anything will hear this because it's going to make me look like a massive like geek. But when I was younger, and Louise will probably get this as well, I used to be into the old WWE. Still am a little bit. I like to follow it just because it's quite entertaining, it's quite funny, it's quite camp. But when I was like 15 years old, this is very, very like sort of cringy, but I was on a wrestling forum, and these guys were talking about it on there, and they were saying about how this amazing book series from A Song of Ice and Fire was getting turned into a TV show soon. It was going to be called Game of Thrones, and that Sean Bean was going to be one of the lead roles in it. And I sort of read quite a bit when I was younger, not a lot, and sort of just like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. That was where my sort of reading sort of went to. Never really outside that sort of scope. And basically, I thought, you know what, I'll check this out. These guys seem to be raving about it. So I was like 16 at the time. Got the Game of Thrones book. Fell completely in love with it. Literally from the first prologue chapter, with the Night's Watchmen north of the wall when they meet the others at the time, but they changed the name to the White Walkers for the show. Absolutely fell in love with it. And then obviously the TV show come out like a couple of years later, like a year later or so. And fantastic. Fell absolutely in love with it at the time anyway, and I powered through the books. And this was before Dance with Dragons come out, and obviously we've been waiting 10 plus years now for Winds of Winter if we'll ever get it. Yeah. So that's how I got into it. How about you, Nessa?
Well, actually, I'm going to sound like a, very old person. But I first came into the world of Ice and Fire in 2002 when I read the Croatian translation of Blood of the Dragon, which was published in a fantasy and science fiction almanac. And I really liked it. And I thought, okay, this author sounds interesting. I'll have a look if the library has anything else by him. And next year, the first edition of the Croatian translation of Game of Thrones came out. And I picked it up because the cover was really epic. Igor Kordel, one of the famous illustrators who did a lot of illustrations of fantasy in Croatia, did the cover. And I started reading and I said, okay, these chapters about Daenerys are really familiar. Like, why do I think I read this? And then I connected that this is the Blood of the Dragon. And I've been a fan of Martin's since decades of being a fan and reading the series. So, and then came the TV show later, I think in 2014, right?
It was 2011. I just looked it up. I said it was 2010 earlier, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, 2011. That's a lot earlier than I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still remember when I found out that Sean Bean was going to play Ned Stark, because we casted him as Ned Stark. We said no one else can play Ned Stark, and then we were giggling like when other people who haven't read the book were watching the TV show, and we were saying Sean Bean is a walking spoiler. You know what will happen to him.
Yeah. Excellent, spot on. Because as you said, Sean Bean is pretty much a walking spoiler, isn't he? He's like a sort of a meme in the acting community. So it's pretty apt that he played Ned Stark. But yeah, I remember when I first saw about him that he was going to play Ned Stark, and I thought absolutely spot on. Great casting there. But yeah, you. Like obviously Game of Thrones, the first book come out in like 1995, I believe. So it's pretty much a long wait, isn't it? 1995 to 2011 or 2010.
Yeah, but
for the TV show.
But I read it first in two.
Yeah, so
that was when it was integration, because it was a hard time then to get books. It wasn't like easy like today where you can just go to Amazon and pick a book and read it instantly when everyone else is reading it. You have to wait for translation then. Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, that's tough.
Well, I'm glad it did get translated, because obviously you were here with us now. Pam, I don't believe you've read the books, have you, Pam?
No.
No. Right, Pam, tell us about how you got into the TV show then.
I feel like mine's really boring compared to everyone else, but I seen my dad watching it, and I seen like a couple of episodes, and I was like, this looks crap.
No surprise there with you then. 10% into it, yeah, this looks pretty crap.
But no, he told me to watch it because he was like, it's going to be really good. And I think it was up to season 6 it was out when I started watching it. So I binged it all, and then had to wait for season 7 and then the last one that we don't talk about. But that's how I got into it, and I still haven't read any of the books because they intimidate me.
They're good books though, Louise, but we know with your reading habits, don't we? Sat there with Royal Assassin on your lap for 2 hours. Guys, I'm planning on reading Royal Assassin tonight. 2 hours later, I haven't read any of it. Just with that, so Game of Thrones, be there for 4 hours. But give the books a try at some point. Definitely, they are good books, and the show did miss out on a lot of big. Well, the earlier seasons were quite cool, but as it went further on, it really did sort of stray off the beaten path, and it got very bizarre. But well, here we go then, Sarah. This is one we've all been waiting for. So tell us a little bit about your experience with Game of Thrones.
Right, this is going to sound really awful and make me look like a right dick, but whenever there's like a new big TV show, I'm like, I'm not fucking watching that because it's it's too mainstream.
Yeah.
And I think I'm like really edgy deep down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it with Stranger Things. I do it all the time. I just refuse to like give in to the hype. And then I can't remember why I gave in. I know that I had a baby who was like very little, so I was at home a lot. And I think I watched the first episode, and like the brand scene after that, I was just absolutely hooked. And I like never ever binge TV shows. I just can't do it for some reason. But I binged like the first couple of seasons that were out then, like when the baby was asleep in the day, all through the night. And like, yeah, I really like remember it really vividly, just being like completely fucking mind blown by all these things that were happening. Obviously the season 1 finale, and like I didn't know anything about it. Like I hadn't heard anything. No one had told me, luckily, and I didn't tell anyone that I was watching it, so I didn't get spoiled, which was pretty good. And then last year I decided that I was going to finally read the book. But the mistake I made was last year I like really fell back into like epic fantasy, and I was reading Wheel of Time, Robin Hood, tried Game of Thrones. Like I was just trying everything all at once. And I did enjoy it, but I think because it is such a like faithful adaptation to the book, it was almost like quite boring reading it because I already knew everything.
Yeah, I get you.
So yeah,
it definitely strays off more in later seasons though. Like there's whole major characters who didn't even make it into the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think season 1's a very faithful adaptation, but the further you get along the series, the less faithful it becomes.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the second book more, actually. And like I really like all my favourite characters, like Cersei, Jaime, they didn't have like POVs in those books. Like it's fucking Bran, Sansa.
Yeah, that's the issue with the first books. Like Sansa is a pretty like infuriating POV. Bran's pretty tame. Like the first book is very good, but the POV characters are all very sort of apart from Tyrion, they're all very vanilla.
And
Ned's good, but he's too honourable for his own good. He won't get his hands dirty.
Yeah, that's true.
And like Tyrion's the only one in book 1, possibly Cat as well, Catelyn, but she's a bit of a dick.
I have a really like unpopular opinion.
What's
Are you
that?
like ready to hear it this early?
Go on, then.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I really hate Tyrion.
What? Tyrion?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you hate Catelyn, and I was going to be like, okay, fair.
No, that's
Tyrion.
not unpopular. Yeah, I hate
thought
Tyrion.
you were going to say that she likes Caitlyn.
No.
I guess.
Sarah, you know, it's funny you should say that because I don't hate Tyrion, but I don't get the hype.
Yeah, it just fucking gets my nerves.
I don't get the hype. For me, at the 3 Lannister children, he's the weakest one by far.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. He's the weakest Lannister. He's weak. He's weaker than even Tywin Lannister.
Oh, Tywin's great though. But
yeah, out of the main characters, out of the main Lannister characters, apart if we're not considering like Lancel and those sort of characters like Lannisters, Tyrion, I think that Jaime, Cersei, and Tywin are much more interesting characters.
You know what gets on my nerves though? Like, I think Tyrion was made to be like this really popular, beloved character.
Yeah.
And that just like fucking annoys the shit out of me.
He's
like too.
Yeah.
But go on, Tom. Why are you Team Tyrion?
Oh, I just think he's. I didn't know it was such an unpopular opinion here, but I just think he's great. Like he's just everything I want, like a likable character to be. The fact that he's not, the fact that he's morally grey, and he's not like a pure good dude. I just think I love how he's like cunning and conniving. I really appreciate that in the character. Like some of my other favorite characters in the series are Littlefinger and Varys. And I just love the like scheming. I really like intelligent characters. Like some of my favorite characters ever are like Sherlock Holmes and Locke Lamora.
Yes.
So I really value intelligent characters, and Tyrion's he's just a very smart character.
He's very quotable.
Pardon?
He's very like quotable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's great, but I didn't know that you guys thought he was overrated.
I think most people do love him. I think that is like a very unpopular opinion to not.
Yeah, it's definitely unpopular. He's a good character, but I just think there's other characters in that series, in that world, that for me anyway, just completely outshine him. He's sort of like maybe like Martin's like self-insert character. I know he's definitely Martin's favorite character, and but yeah, he's interesting and he's fun, but I just think there's better characters. But as Sarah said, he's very quotable, and I remember there's I don't know if he actually said this in the show, but there was the one part in the Game of Thrones book, at least, when he's on the way to the Eyrie with Bronn and Cat. He's a captive of Catelyn at the time, and the Mountain Clan come down, and one of the guys from the Mountain Clan, Shagga, says to him, "How would you like to die, Tyrion, son of Lannister?"
Yeah.
And he says, "At the age of 80 years old, with a belly full of wine and a maiden's mouth round my cock." And it's just that is good. That's a great line. And obviously the pissing off the wall. And when he first approaches Jon, that the feast at Winterfell with the line that says at that moment that Tyrion Lannister stood as tall as the king. Like those are really good lines. But I do think he's definitely overrated. But that's just
his relationship with Bronn as well. That's like one of my favorites. That is amazing. That's when Tyrion was at his best for me.
Yeah. And I love.
I just love how witty he is.
He is very witty, isn't he? Very witty.
Yeah, and there's a whole book of his wit and wisdom by Tyrion Lannister.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, it's very short and just filled with his wit
and
wisdom. Yeah, did you?
Is it just quotes?
Yeah, just quotes of
or
various topics.
Seen it.
Okay, that does sound good.
It does sound good. And
are you team Tyrion, Ness?
Yeah, I really do like him. Out of the Lannister children, he's
your favourite.
Yeah, he's my favourite out of the three.
Oh, no, you got Jaime Lannister.
Cersei and Jaime are just like. Jaime Lannister is just a wee bit of an idiot, and
no, don't say
I
this.
think he only is in like the earlier books and seasons. I think he like matures a lot.
He does character growth, yes, but he's still a wee bit of an idiot.
He is, but he's very easily manipulated by Cersei, and that's part of what makes his character so intriguing.
I think it's Feast for Crows. He has a lot of like intelligence there, actually, with like how he plays the Blackfish and Edmure Tully, with the like how he takes Riverrun back, and there's a few other scenes in there as well that shows that like I think not only has he matured a bit, but he's also like kind of growing into his father's shoes a bit, like becoming the strategic mastermind that his father was.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and that's one of the most interesting aspects of Jaime as well, was that Tywin wants Jaime to be his heir. He wants Jaime to be the perfect Lannister, and at times Jaime is, but Jaime very much rebels against him a lot of the time. Jaime joins the Kingsguard against Tywin's wishes.
There's a lot of like depth to him as a character.
There's a lot of depth to Jaime, and I would have said pre-season 8 of Game of Thrones, and I can't speak for the books at the moment, because where we're at in the books at the moment, he still is probably the best written character in those books. But pre the show, anyway, he was probably one of the greatest characters of all time in any sort of medium. And then obviously season 8 completely demolished him as a character. But we'll get into that more later. But yeah, absolutely eviscerated his character. But yeah, other than that, he was spot on, fantastic.
Yeah, I think at like from kind of like a zoomed out perspective, I think Jaime's like maybe the best then. Like I think like if you look at his narrative arc, like he's such an incredible character, but in terms of like a more focused perspective, like pure enjoyment, I like Tyrion a lot more. Like I think I relate to him a bit more as well. And I think Tyrion's just fun. That's why I like him.
He is fun. Yeah, he's a lot of fun. And what I like about him as well is, whilst I'm not his biggest fan, he's not overly like capable. Like as you said, he's very intelligent, but he's often outsmarted by Varys, by Littlefinger, Pycelle. he thinks he's sort of competing with them, and at times he is, but as you see in like Clash of Kings, the books, you see that they're very far ahead of him in terms of playing the game.
Yeah.
So he has got like a lot to learn. But anyway, we sort of like digress from the point here because episode 1 we're going to be doing the TV show, weren't we? So sort of like dive into that. So Nessa, I presume obviously you've seen the TV show, haven't you?
Yeah, but I watched it only until season 5 because after season 5, I kind of felt it just weird off of the source material, and it didn't feel like a Martin show, at least for me anymore. So after season 5 ended, I said, okay, this is it for me. I'm stopping there. Obviously, I followed along like all the spoilers and all the chats and everything, but I just didn't watch the show the rest of the seasons because it just, I don't know, it lost its magic for me. I don't know, but the first 4 seasons for me were excellent, and then season 5 was not really my cup of tea, and that's why when I decided, okay, I'm stopping there.
Yeah. I could agree with that. A lot of people said that seasons 1 to 4, while season 1's obviously the most faithful, season 1 to 4 they're still relatively faithful to the source material, but season 5 is when it really started to like differ, didn't it? And you get I believe season 5 is when Jamie goes to Dawn in the TV show, and that whole come on.
Yeah, season 5 was like
Dawn
a weird blend
dirty.
of.
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, season 5, like half the characters were doing exactly what they're doing in the book, because like they hadn't quite reached where the books have for now finished, but then the other half the characters had run out of book content, so then they were off doing like stuff that they didn't do in the book. Like Jamie went to Dawn, that didn't happen at all. He just went to the Riverlands, which in the show he ended up doing after Dawn. But yeah, it was a little bit of like a weird blend of faithful to the books and like not faithful at all for different characters.
Yeah, definitely. The because how I gathered things would be for season 5, it would be a mix of Dance with Dragons and Feast for Crows, and obviously, like you said, we do get some of that with certain characters such as Brienne going on her quest in the Riverlands for Sansa, and obviously the Jon's cahoots at the Wall. But Jamie, the whole Dawn plot was very baffling, wasn't it? It's probably that season got vilified for that, didn't it? Because of the whole Jamie and the Sand Snakes were some like characters I was really looking forward to, especially Aetheris the Sphinx, Serena. Yeah, but we didn't even see her as a character.
Yeah, I think for me, aside from like season 8 aside, like looking at the first 7 seasons, I think maybe the biggest disappointment was probably the Dawn like aspect. Like I really didn't like how Doran was like kind of just seen as like a feeble wimp, like a bit of a coward. In the book, he's kind of like a scheming mastermind. Like he has this huge plan that like he's playing chess and everyone else is just acting on impulse. And the show just kind of like, I didn't have the scope for it, I guess. So they just made it seem like he was just feeble and too cowardly to like take any revenge on the Lannisters. But in the book, he actually had like a huge like scheme in place to try and take revenge. And it just kind of played his character down a lot.
Yeah, because in the books in Feast for Crows, when you get that big reveal that he says to Ariana Martell, I've sent Quentin.
He's not even in the show.
He's not in the show, and Quentin, who's not even in the show. I've sent Quentin over here to meet Daenerys. You're going to Storm's End to meet Aegon Targaryen, and Dawn will, through fire and blood, we will, reign supreme again. And like that was a really big moment in the books, and to not get any of that in the show was quite baffling. It was definitely a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, and especially since they have Alexander Siddig playing Doran.
Yes.
Why did you not use that? He's fantastic actor, and getting so little opportunity or so little use out of him was just horribly disappointing for me.
It was very much.
As someone who had not read the books though, or knew anything about the books, like, you have to give it credit for that TV show literally changed everything. It's like people that would never even dream of going anywhere near fantasy were all of a sudden like mad obsessed with Game of Thrones. Like, everyone was talking about it. It was absolutely everywhere. And
like literally myself. Like,
yeah. It was like the biggest thing for fantasy since Lord of the Rings films, really. And like, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it since either. Just constantly having your fucking mind blown by like what was happening in front of you, like the edge of your seat, standing up, like the Red Wedding, Battle of the Bastards, Mountain and the Viper, the Purple Wedding. Like, there's just so many fucking good bits, and right up to like season 7, I would say. As someone who hadn't read the books, who didn't have anything to compare it to, will be disappointed by.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there, Sarah. Like, as much as we, the book readers especially, would rag on like how the series has gone, the TV series, it was at one point for a good 5 or 6 years, it was this massive like cultural zeitgeist that completely took over social media. Everyone was talking about it. Literally everyone was watching Game of Thrones, and like you said, you know, it got people who wouldn't usually be into fantasy talking about it, watching it, and it was this massive thing. And for all, like I said, for all the fact that we give it week to week, it was entertaining, and the acting was spot on. The acting was, like, for the most part, was excellent. The battle scenes, like the Battle of Blackwater, amazing. Battle of the Bastards, incredible. Even though we've not seen that happen in the books yet, if that happens in the books, you know,
I actually will. We'll probably get into it later on, but I actually think it won't happen.
Yeah, I don't think it will. But for what it was on the TV show, the episode was excellent, really fucking good. Sorry, Smudge. Yeah, but
it's kind of like stuff that you wouldn't. It was like better than anything that you'd see on like the big screen, and I think it was like event television, wasn't it? And I don't think we've kind of like experienced anything quite like that since, because now like watching something has become it's something you do very like independently again, with like everything being on streaming, so you kind of binge watch things in your own time. Game of Thrones was the last thing that I can remember that it was like everyone was fucking gagging every week, like waking up in the early hours to fucking watch the latest episode because they could not wait.
Yeah, like obviously I read the books, but I was one of them people. I was staying up to like 2 a.m. just to get the latest episode, because as much as in the later seasons I was like, oh, I don't know what they're doing with this. I don't know how I feel about that guy. I was still hooked on it because the characters were still, for the most part, was still great, and it was still fucking really entertaining television.
The acting as well, like, was fucking outstanding. The acting never stopped being outstanding.
No, it didn't. And I've spoke about this with you before. I'm really disappointed in you with this. Is how do you not like the TV show version of Jorah Mormont? I think he's outstanding.
Oh god, I hate it.
I think he's outstanding. He's probably.
I like him.
Yeah, I think he's incredible.
I think he's a bit different to how he was in the book, but like different doesn't equal bad.
No, exactly. I think how they changed him from the books to the show, they're perfect with that, because in the books he's very creepy, isn't he? He's not an attractive man. He's overweight. He's not attractive. He's very like clingy to Daenerys. Then
I think it helps though that Daenerys is aged up a bit. Like in the season 1, she's 17, but in the book she's 14. So it's a bit more creepy when he's a bit younger in the book than he is in the show. I think he's about 39 or something, or in his 40s. But when you're like in your late 30s or 40s and you're crushing on a 14-year-old, it's not very actually for a favourable character.
And that's the thing. It's in the books. It's given off in like a sexual way, whereas in the show, he's played by a very attractive man, and it's sort of he's not looking at her in a sexual way. He's in awe of like what she represents and how she goes about things and how she's making change in the world. And I think that's a really good change that they've done with him. And
I think also he's just a great actor.
He's a brilliant actor.
In season 1, I think he was the biggest name in the show.
Yeah, he was.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You can see that in the credits at least.
Really he's like, name, yeah.
He's always like, like I think like last in the season 1 credits. Like, and he's he's like kind of it says like in England. Yeah. Rather than like with a lot of the other actors, it might be like 2 or 3 people on the same slide.
The other thing I love about it is the fact that you've got all that kind of stuff. Like with Game of Thrones, you've got so many different things going on, and you've got like the fucking massive thing between, obviously, with like the fucking what are they, the Night Walkers.
White Walkers.
White Walkers on the name, yeah, White Walkers. And then you've got you've got like that overarching everything, but then the storylines that I preferred were kind of like the Cersei political shit. I know, Tom, you said earlier that Littlefinger's one of your favourite characters. He's definitely one of mine. Like any scene that he was in, I was just absolutely hooked.
Yeah, and Varys as well. Like I think I like book Varys a little bit more, because I'm sure we'll get into this later when we get into some theories, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes with Varys' character than you might first expect. I think like definitely my second reading of the books, there was so much more nuance to his character that I didn't even pick up the first time around reading. So yeah, he's just, both Littlefinger and Varys are incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Like that, I think those were my favourite scenes, like throughout the whole series. Just those kind of like intimate, round the table, like fucking shit up. It was amazing. It was so well done.
Yeah, like that scene with Littlefinger and Varys in season 3, maybe, when they've been clashing for much of the show at this point. It comes together with Littlefinger giving the iconic speech about because Varys calls chaos a pit.
Oh yes,
chaos is a ladder. Yeah,
Chills.
It was a fantastic scene, and they were just complete polar opposites, but they were both playing the game for very different reasons. And I love that in the books. And they're sort of seen in the books, they're the puppet masters of everything going on. Yeah, and they still are in the show. Not so much, but they still are definitely in the show. But Louise, I'd quite like to hear, tell us a bit about your experience of the show. Like, who's your favourite characters? What did you love about the show?
I think my favourite would have to be Arya, but also I hate the way they done her dirty. Because it's season 7 that she. Are we allowed to do spoilers, by the way?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
I think most people at this point have watched Game of
Thrones. We're doing a discussion. I'm sure, like we're a bit hamstringing ourselves if we don't give any spoilers.
Cool, but when she stabbed is it the Night King?
Yeah. Season 8, by the way. Yeah.
I'm pulling a say that. I just thought it was absolute bullshit, and I hated that. Favorite is probably Cersei or Sansa, but I don't know. Sansa's one of those weird ones where I love her, but I also hate her. Especially in season 8, I just found her really boring and just cold and just a bit weird the way she went on. Like, I obviously get that she went through all that shit in the beginning, and obviously had to watch her dad die, but I don't know, I just feel like they could have made her sort of character development a wee bit better. I don't know, I love how it got so many people hooked to it though, because I know I was hooked from the beginning, even though when I first seen it I thought it was a bit shit, but like still remember like waking up, pretty sure it was me and Jack that were doing this, waking up at like 6 a.m. so that we could watch it before work.
Yeah, that's something I definitely used to do myself. And Sansa, she's a funny one, Sansa, because I understand, like you said, she went through all that shit with Joffrey, then her dad, and Ramsay as well. Which is that going to happen in the books as well? We don't know. And
it already hasn't, because
in the books.
Yeah, in the book they had Jane Poole instead.
Posing as Arya,
for non-book readers, Jane Poole is Sansa's childhood best friend, who looks like an older, taller version of Arya. So in the books, they say instead of it being Sansa, they claim that it's Arya, but yeah, it's actually Sansa's childhood best friend who, and they just say that Arya just aged a lot, like she just grew up a lot, and that's why she looks a lot taller and older than she previously did. But some people are a bit doubtful that it is in fact Arya because, she must have aged and grown a lot in the small time that she was away from Winterfell.
Yeah, a lot of the Northmen are doubtful that it's Arya, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like Wyman Manderly and
Barbara Dustin.
Yeah, they're all very apprehensive that it's Arya. But yeah, it's a very radical change from the books, that is, because at this point in the books, Sansa is at the Eyrie with Littlefinger, and she's due to marry one of the Lords of the Vale, isn't she? Yeah, Harry the Heir.
Yep. Yeah, because
he seems like quite a good man as well. He seems like quite a decent man. So it's a radical change.
Yeah, it's because they think Robin, who is the Lord of the Vale, the young
shit.
The little shit. People think he's going to die, so they're marrying him off to the his distant cousin, who's his heir, and they're trying to marry Sansa to him, so that like Littlefinger can puppeteer both the Vale and the North.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because he's a lot more Littlefinger in the show. Season 6 or so, season 1 to season 5, he's very intelligent, but season 7, I believe it is, when he's killed by Arya, sort of loses all of his intelligence for some reason.
Yeah, I thought that was quite satisfying, his ending. It's like one of the only endings that I found satisfying.
Oh, I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. No, why did you find it satisfying?
I don't know if it's just like compared to all of the other fucking endings, which none of them satisfied me, but I remember being like, fucking yes at that moment, because he deserved it.
He did deserve it.
It'd been coming, and it was like the way they delivered it, like between them, and they'd obviously had such like a rocky relationship between Arya and Sansa, and like I think it was like seeing that come together as well and being like, fuck you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
He did deserve it, but this is the same guy that started the War of the Five Kings. He's manipulated all these people for years and years and years, and then for some reason in the show, he thinks that he can play off these like brothers and sisters that are really super close.
Yeah, but you've got to think what Sansa and Arya had been through by that point. So he might be all those things, but like think what they had become. Think of everything they'd been through and like how fucking clever they'd got. Like they'd both been through so much shit and learnt so much. Like fucking absolutely they could take him down.
I don't know. Sansa, maybe I agree with. I don't like Arya as a character.
No, I don't like her, but she's still like managed to achieve.
Yeah. Have you like always not liked Arya, or is it like
Arya? I really liked up until she left the Hound.
Same.
Yeah.
Despised her for that. Yeah. Because I think everyone can agree that the Hound is amazing.
Yeah.
I love the Hound.
He's begging her to put him out of his misery.
Like, not main characters. It's like my favorite.
Yeah,
definitely. And there's a lot of ways you can look at that scene. Like, do you think she refused to kill him because she couldn't bring herself to kill him, or do you think she wanted him to suffer?
Yeah, I think like it was actually literally written to be ambiguous, so that like it was left up to you to make your own conclusions.
Yeah, it was quite emotional, like that scene. I remember actually. I think the way they did it was perfect, and the fact that it was ambiguous, like I think I really liked that about it.
I did as well, because I liked it in the latest season when she goes to Bravos to learn how to be an assassin, and the guy training her, Jack and Hagar, every time she tells a lie, he hits her with that stick, and he says, "Tell me about what you've been doing." And she says, "I was captured by a man called the Hound," and he doesn't hit her, and she goes off about the story, and she said, "I left him to die," and he doesn't hit her, and she said, "I hated him," and he hits her, and she said, "That's not a lie," and he hits her again. And I like that bit, but just the Hound, his evolution as a character, and
he's incredible.
He's incredible, and if you
literally every time I rewatch the show, I love him more and more.
Thank you so much to everyone listening for episode 1, part 1 of the Game of Thrones fandom discussion, where we are talking about TV shows. We have a community Discord that you can also join, where we do talk about Game of Thrones. We have our own channel. You can find more information over on Instagram, which is at fantasy_fellowship. On Twitter, we are at fanfellowship, and we also have a website, which is www.fantasy-fellowship.co.uk. If you did enjoy this fandom discussion episode, please hit like, and to watch the next episode, please subscribe with the Fantasy Fellowship YouTube. In the next episode, what we are talking about is TV shows part 2.